Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. Now, we bring you this video segment every single morning to give you an update on what has been happening in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all-important rest. Because let's face it, whilst you need sleep, we need sleep, everyone really needs sleep. The world of sport is something that doesn't really rest all that much. There's always something or the other that is going on, and it's easy to miss out on a few things if you are a little switched off at that point in time. But worry not, that's what this video is for. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Now, let's start off with talking about someone who received multiple honors in front of course, the President of India, Mohammad Shami. Now, Shami, of course, he was given his honors due to the fact that he had such a phenomenal performance in the ICC World Cup, and the fact that he's such a beloved character is something that's not really lost on anyone, because if you go through the comments of his Instagram post wherein he's actually posted about getting those awards, it's just filled with a lot of comments, and it was led by none other than Virat Kohli. You can see it on your screen right now. You have Virat Kohli's comment where he says, "Mubarak ho Lala." You've got Gujarat Titans, Shami's franchise, saying, "We're proud of you, Shami bhai." Shikhar Dhawan, someone who himself has been in a similar position like Kohli, says, "Congrats, bro." And of course, you've got Irfan Pathan right up there saying, "Congratulations, brother." Yes, it might seem like a most normal thing to congratulate Shami for winning what he did, but the fact that Shami gets such a wonderfully positive response from everyone shows just how beloved he is, and shows, more importantly, how important he is seen as a member of the squad across formats. There's been murmurs and chatter about whether or not Mohammad Shami will be fit for the England test, whether or not he'll be able to play much white ball cricket before the World Cup. But you all know that even if he's not fully fit right now, when he comes back, so much is the faith in Shami that you just know he'll be able to do a phenomenal job like he did in the ICC World Cup. Now, speaking of white ball cricket, there's a bit of a dampener for a lot of you who were looking forward to the India versus Afghanistan T20I series, because of course we're going to see the return of Rohit and Virat Kohli. Well, bit unfortunate, but that first T20I is in a little bit of danger of being spoiled by bad weather. And in case you're thinking, why bad weather? Because surely it can't be raining right now in Mohali, right? Well, you're absolutely correct, but it isn't rain that's going to be the problem. It's going to be the cold wave that has hit pretty much every part of India. I mean, I can tell you, we are in the Delhi NCR region. We're feeling it every single day. It's just freezing, and not just freezing. There's no sunlight. More often than not, you're not getting any kind of respite from the weather, and in the evenings and mornings it tends to get very breezy as well. And of course, the biggest killer, fog. That is what's expected to be the problem at the PCA stadium in Mohali, is that if the fog becomes too bad and visibility is affected, then you could very well see the match get called off in between, or maybe not even start at all, considering it's a 7 o'clock IST start. You'd think that's bad organizing, but the winter wave has hit the north a little later than usual this year. The expectation would have been that by this point the cold wave is starting to kind of dissipate, but it's the opposite. It really is picking up. Unfortunate, but let's hope for the best and cross our fingers, toes, and everything else that, truth be told, the match doesn't get called off, because again, these three T20Is are critical for the Indian team. They're the last T20Is they're going to be playing before the World Cup, because after this, you've got 5 tests against England, and you've got the IPL, which will be played in very admittedly different conditions than what you could get in the ICC T20 World Cup, which is going to be held in the USA and West Indies. So let's really see. You'd hope that none of these matches get called off, especially for these two, because again, aside from obviously the fact that you'd want to be seeing them in action, there's also the fact that they need to get a little bit of game time in this particular format. Now, speaking of resting players and seeing players come back, Australia have named rather different side for the ODI series that they will be playing against the West Indies. Now, this is the start of Australia's home summer. They've already hosted Pakistan. They're now going to be hosting the West Indies for a 2-test series as well as a 3 ODI series. As for the wisdom of hosting an ODI series in a T20 World Cup here, don't ask me, I have no idea. But what I do know is that their regular captain, Pat Cummins, has been rested, and not just him, all the fast bowling trio of Australia. There's no Cummins, there's no Mitchell Starc, and there's no Josh Hazlewood. All have been given a break from the ODIs. They're bringing in some newer talent, you could say. There's a Jai Richardson who's coming back in. Lance Morris, of course, seen as the next Sean Tate, the next wild thing, is in the squad, could be in line for a debut. and the likes of Nathan Ellis are there and thereabouts. There's even a Scott Morris, no, not Scott Morris, I'm forgetting his name, Scott Boland, my bad, who will be in that squad, but the mainstays are getting a rest. Steve Smith is going to be leading them in ODIs, and it does kind of make sense, although again, as I said, why play ODIs in a T20 World Cup here? Surely would have made more sense to play a few T20s against the West Indies, although it works out well for the Pacers. They get a little bit of workload management, and that's that. Switching our focus now from the world of cricket to the world of football, and an inconsistent Chelsea side suffered yet another big shock when they were beaten 1-0 by Middlesbrough in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. Now, the semi-final of the League Cup, as it's officially known, the Carabao Cup is its sponsor name. It is a two-legged semi-final, so if you're Chelsea, it's not the worst result in the world when you're looking at the bigger picture. Why? Because the second leg of this particular semi-final is a home game for Chelsea, and they have been very good at home, and they've been almost as good at home as they have been bad away from home. But it's still not a very good result that you ended up putting out a pretty strong side and then end up losing to a championship side. So who really knows? But again, that's been the season, or the story of the season for Chelsea. They can look phenomenal 1 minute and they can look terrible the next, but that's the case when you look at how it is. Their squad is very young, a lot of new players. Cohesion and consistency is going to take some time, but if you're Maurizio Pochettino, the head coach, you hope that they can get through the second leg of the semi-final, maybe get a comprehensive victory, get through the final, maybe be up and, you know, be in with their chance of winning a trophy, because that will alleviate a lot of the pressure that naturally him as well as the players would be feeling. More football news, and speaking of Chelsea, former Chelsea forward Timo Werner has confirmed a return to England, but this time it's not Chelsea, it's another London club. It is Tottenham Hotspur. He's joined the side on a 6-month loan deal with an option to buy in the summer. And if you're wondering how it is that a forward like this is available on loan, don't forget Werner was part of the Chelsea side that won the Champions League in 2021. Well, he has kind of fallen out of favor with new RB Leipzig manager Marco Rose. He's had only 4 starts in competitions recently, definitely looking for more game time, so he's gone into Spurs as a backup cover right now for Son Heung-min, who you'd remember is not going to be available for Spurs throughout this month, because of course he's taking part in the AFC Asian Cup that is going to be starting in a couple of days. He's of course South Korea's captain, so Spurs were a little short. They've had a few injury issues as well. So in comes Werner, 6-month loan. Could it be, that he actually does really well at Spurs? He was pretty inconsistent in Chelsea, but did score a few goals. More often than not, though, is remembered for some pretty woeful finishing and missing chances that, truth be told, even my granny would have scored. But that's neither here nor there. A little bit more football news before we switch over to sports beyond that. India captain Sunil Chhetri has put out a bit of a challenge to the Indian side, and he said, look, the side has improved a lot in the past few years, but first AFC Asian Cup game is against Australia, and Australia are a World Cup level side. He's correct. They were in fact taking part of the 2022 World Cup, lost out in the round of 16 only to eventual winners Argentina. Definitely several notches above India. And he said, games like this, it's a good way to gauge where exactly it is you are as a side and figure out how far you've really come and how far you've still got to go to be reaching that level. And he's absolutely right. He also added that, in 2011, when India and Australia were in the same AFC Asian Cup group, saying at that point we weren't as well prepared as we are now. And he's added that, we're far better prepared at this point in time. We've done our homework, we've done a lot of video analysis, and that makes it easier. But he still said, look, this is the game. You want to be able to find out how far it is that you've come. This is the game you need to be stepping up. And truth be told, no one's expecting a result in this game. This is me talking. Nobody is expecting a positive result against Australia. There's several levels above India. You want to see a good performance regardless of the scoreline. I think that will be the key part for India. How many goals do they concede? Is their link-up play good? Is their overall patterns of play good? That's what you're going to be focusing on, not the scoreline, because you're almost certainly going to lose. Trust me when I say even a draw in this game would be a major, major upset. And last but not least, there's a couple of more things we want to talk about, and one of them, unfortunately, is that there has been report published by NADA, the National Anti-Doping Agency, which shows that in the calendar year 2023, doping cases went up significantly. In fact, the number of positive tests was well over 100, and sports that were topping it up were the likes of wrestling and weightlifting. And it is a bit unfortunate when you look at it, because again, if you're competing at the highest level, you want to ensure that you're competing in a fair way, because you want to be not cheating, you want to be not doing things that are illegal. But it's sad to see that the number of positive cases has gone up. Now, that could be two things. It could either mean that more people are doping, or it could mean that the checks and balances that are in place to catch these cheats has actually become more vigorous, so you're catching more people. One or the other. It could be, one really hopes so, that come next year you see less tests and you see less cases of such issues happening in the near future. Last but not least, and a bit of positive news, especially if you're a tennis fan, the WTA and the ATP, which is of course the bodies that run men's and women's tennis, they have now come up with an agreement to ensure that matches don't go on far too late. It's been a criticism by players and even fans that more often than not, there are certain games that start too late, so they end up going on into the early hours of the morning, and it can be a problem not just for fans but also even for athletes who more often than not might have to travel, may have a game the next day, so recovery is slow. ATP and WTA have said, look, any game which comes under our jurisdiction, or whichever tournament it may be, the match which is going to be starting at 11 o'clock previously cannot start later than 10:30. And if it has to be that way, that is unable to start and there's a match happening in another court, it'll be shifted to another court. The effort is to ensure that players are getting optimal amount of rest time, and you have seen tennis make some steps towards that to ensure that games get a little shorter. It's been a criticism. Previously, you'd see in most Grand Slams the fifth set would have no tie break. That's come into effect now. So all these kind of rules are coming in to make it a little easier on the athletes, because it does tend to happen that you have far too many long games. I mean, look at the Nicholas Mahut and John Isner game as a primary example. It went on far too long, and by the end of it, I think both players were just happy when one of them actually ended up winning, because again, it's just unfortunate that it goes on so long. So good step really from the ATP and WTA. But that's it from us on this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you enjoy our work, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well, including a brand new episode of Sport and Spice. Also, stay tuned to the channel. We've got plenty more coming your way. For now though, from my side, it's goodbye.